Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We'll start with the prayers first. So let me offer the obeisances using Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadankitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Shri Lalita Vishakhanvitam Sha हे कृष्णा करुण सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा
ಕಂಡವ್ರನ್ನ ವಿಚಾರ
कांता
ಏನಕ್ಕೋ ನಿಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ
नमस्तते
ಅಲ್ಲ
तप्त
ಹೋಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ
कांचन
ಮನೆಯಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ರಿ
गौरांगी
ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ
श्री
ಇಸ್ಕೊಂತಿದ್ರೆ
राधे
ಅದು
वृंदेश्वरी
ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಬರೀ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳೇ
वृषभानुसुते
ಆಗೋಯ್ತು
देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिय
ಮತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಿಂದನೇ
वाञ्छा
ಕೊಡ್ರಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೇಲಿ ಎಲ್ರು
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च
ದುಡಿತಾರೆ ತಾನೆ
कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिनी नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेषाय शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणी जयो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे हरे
Can everybody
राम
please mute?
राम
ಬೇಗ ನೋಡ್ತಾ
राम
ನಾವು
राम
ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ
हरे
ಚೆನ್ನಾಗೈತೆ
हरे हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, can you make me the co-host for
yeah हरे कृष्ण माता
Hare
Hare
Krishna?
yeah
Krishna Prabhuji.
ಚೆನ್ನಾಗೈತೆ ಕತೆ ಅದು ನನಗೂ ಬಾರಿ ಇಷ್ಟ ಅದು ರವೆಗಿಂತ
Shivnath
ಒಳ್ಳೇದು
Prabhu or Mataji, so you'll have to take care
Yeah,
of your mic.
I have muted them, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not disturb others. Yeah. So
Yeah.
basic thing. Okay. So I once again welcome you all to the third session of the Bhagavad Gita online classes. Yeah. So today we'll be starting with the chapter 2. Okay. So which is known as Gita summarized. Okay, so this chapter actually comprises of lot many things. Yeah, so that's the reason it is called Gita summarized. So we can say that chapter 2 covers all in all of Gita. Yeah, so it covers a lot of topics. Yeah, so we'll cover that. So before we start the chapter 2, right? So chapter 2 has got 72 verses. So it's a little bigger chapter, but let's see how we can go through it. Yeah. And then this is one of the important chapters. Yeah. So because here Lord Krishna starts speaking. Yeah. So all this while, right, he was only hearing to Arjuna. Yeah. So before we start this session, right, so let's do a quick recap of what we have learned from our last two sessions, right? So we had two sessions for chapter 1. So let's do a quick recap. Any digital hands? Anyone wants to go? So anything anyone remembers, recollects, wants to share? Yeah, please raise your digital hand so that yeah somebody has it. Shiv Kumar Prabhu, go ahead, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You're on mute. Okay, 1 minute. Let me. You can unmute now. Hare Krishna.
After seeing both armies in the battlefield, Arjuna looked at the armies. He decided not to participate in battle because everybody was his relative and his friends, his spiritual masters, gurus. He
Oh,
was in dilemma to participate in the battle.
yes. Okay. So,
That's
Prabhu,
all,
though,
Guruji.
yeah, your voice was breaking, but so I could understand that his compassion, right? So, I think you touched on compassion, wherein he was.
Prabhuji, maybe network issue.
That's okay, Prabhu. Understood. So, I think you touched base the point called the compassion, wherein Arjuna did not want to fight with his own relatives and kinsmen, right? Yes. Okay. Rajni Mataji, you can go ahead next. Okay. Mataji, I've unmuted you. Can you?
Namaste, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So first chapter is basically about Arjuna Vishada,
Yes.
how he feels about looking at both the parties and everything, and the reasons why about the 5 components of his reasons why he does not want to fight: compassion, loss of enjoyment, fear of sinful reactions,
Yes.
and he was not decisive about what he had to do. And his destruction of the family, like he's worried that if the entire family gets destroyed, then there's nobody to take forward all the legacies of the family or teach the younger generations.
Yes.
And so he was like very skeptical as to what has to be done. And we also understood the inner fears of Duryodhana. He was scared because of all the reasons that we could see, like why they will win the war in the next chapter, the second chapter.
Yeah.
So
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. So, yeah, as Mataji mentioned, right? Mataji and Prabhuji covered maximum of the things. So, yeah. So we saw Dhritarashtra's duality, and then Duryodhana's diplomacy, followed by Arjuna's 4 reasons for not fighting the war. Yeah. So after looking at the army, so now we'll continue with chapter 2. So in here also Arjuna, for couple of say more verses, right? He's still not prepared to fight. Okay, so still he has got that mood. Yeah. So we'll see through that. Okay. And I see that there is a survey form which is being shared. Okay. In our WhatsApp group. So kindly take some time and then share the feedback. Yeah. So it is for all. It will not take much of your time, but yeah. So whenever you're in the leisure, right? Please do that. Yeah. And then I see that a couple of devotees have increased their rounds, and then they are going to 4, right? So which is a good sign. So please continue. Yeah. So as I said, so on Ekadashi, you can try one more round. Yeah. So it will be more useful. So rather on Ekadashi, if you chant, right? So so if you it's like if you chant one time, right? It's like 10 times. So it's more auspicious to chant more on Ekadashi. So try. So whatever is possible. Yeah. And then yeah. So hope you're able to see my screen, right? So we'll start. So thank you, Mataji. And so this was the chapter 1 summary, right? Observing the armies, and then so Arjuna's 4 reasons. So So compassion, no enjoyment even after winning the war. Yeah. And then destruction of the family. Yeah. And the sinful reactions, all those things. Yeah. So these were the things which we covered extensively in chapter 1. So let's start and see what is there in chapter 2. So chapter 2 also, right, basically in the first 10 verses, right? So still the lamentation of Arjuna goes on, and then he surrenders to Krishna in the first 10. Yeah. And then so in the next 20 verses, right? So Jnana is being spoken by Lord Krishna. Yeah. So in section B, right? So that is 2.11 to 2.30, those 20 verses, right? So Arjuna gives Jnana, yeah, or we call it as Sankhya also. Yeah. So this is these are the verses where Krishna enlightens Arjuna. Yeah. And then so we have Karma Kanda from 2.31 to 2.38, that is Sakarma, yeah, yoga. So that is being taught here. And then from verse 2.39 to 2.53, it is Buddhi Yoga. Yeah. And this is also Niskama Karma Yoga. Yeah. So this is covered fully here. Yeah. So, and then later on, say all these things will be covered at length. Yeah. As in the upcoming chapters, right? In the subsequent chapters, all these things should be covered in detail. So, and then 2.54 to 2.72. So this is about Sthita Prajna. Yeah. So how to fix in Krishna conscious, and then say how do they talk, how do they walk. So there is a lot of things which will cover from 2.54 to 2.72. Okay. So this is a nutshell of chapter 2. Okay. In all these, right? So when Krishna speaks, right? So every time he says fight. Okay. So there is nothing to lament. Even in Jnana Yoga, he says fight. In Karma Kanda also, he says fight. Yeah. Everywhere you see, right? So he says fight. So that is the essence. Yeah. So more or less, one should do his own duty. Yeah. So Arjuna being a Kshatriya, right? He should perform his duty when he is on the battlefield. Yeah. So that is what the whole gist is. Yeah. So here in 2.1, again, Sanjaya actually, Sanjaya still is describing the situation. And then he says that now Arjuna has put his bows and arrows. Yeah. And then he's actually crying, and then he's not, he's in no mood to fight. Yeah. So he's briefing these things to Dhritarashtra. Yeah. But in this verse, right, Sanjaya uses the word called Madhusudana. Yeah? So he uses the word called Madhusudana. So wherein he is hinting, Dhritarashtra saying that now Lord Krishna will actually speak, because Madhusudana means one who kills the doubts, right? So one who kills the demon. Sorry, Madhusudana is one who killed the demon Madhu. So now he is expecting, Sanjaya is expecting that Krishna will actually kill all the doubts which Arjuna has in. Yeah? So in this way, he is giving an hint that though you are feeling that Arjuna will not fight, but Krishna is there, and then once Krishna speaks, he'll remove the lamentation of Arjuna, and then he'll be ready to fight. Yeah. So he gave him an indication. Yeah. So indirect indication he has given. Yeah. So let's see. So what happens next? So in this, right, the purport, so there are little bit of description which has been given. Yeah. So there is an analogy which has been given. Say if a person is drowning, right? So if a person is drowning in water, and there is no point in saving his garments. So if he's wearing a shirt, right, so, and then if you pull, say, you come through an aeroplane, or so you come through an helicopter, and then you just lift the person's dress, the outward dress which is wearing, instead of actually pulling him by his gross body. So until you don't pull him from the whole body out of this ocean or the water, right? So there is no point so of sustenance, right? So if you just mere pull off his clothes, nothing is going to happen. Yeah. And then so the material compassion, right? So currently we are also in the material ocean. Yeah. So we are also actually drowning in the material ocean. And then the body is compared to the outward dress which we are wearing, right? So even if somebody comes and pulls us out, right? So he has to pull in using the gross body. Then only we can actually come out of this material ocean, or else so we'll be drowning in it. Yeah. So how is this possible? So all these things should be possible. So once we study Bhagavad Gita, and then we know all those reasons, right? And then Lord Krishna in this chapter describes that through his analytic studies, right? So the verses from 10 to 30. So he'll clarify that we are not the soul, we are not the body, we are the soul. Yeah. So this thing will be clarified. And yeah, so we'll see through the subsequent verses. Yeah. So because all this time, right, Arjuna is in the material platform, and then he has tears, lamentation, all these things, right? So because he is not differentiating body from the soul. Yeah. So that's the thing. Sorry. So here for the first time, right, in the Bhagavad Gita, so until this verse, right, Krishna only listens to Arjuna. So Arjuna is keep on screaming. So he is actually telling so many things to Krishna, but Krishna did not speak until here. So this is the first verse wherein Krishna speaks, and then we get to see Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Yeah. So here Lord Krishna says, Kutastva Kashmalam idam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Justam Ashvargyam Akirtrikaram Arjuna. So here Lord Krishna is asking Arjuna, from where have you got these impurities, yeah, these dirts? Yeah? You being an Kshatriya, say, why are you speaking all these words, and then why are you lamenting? Yeah? So, and then he's asking, say, all these are not the features of an Aryan. Okay. So you're actually become an Anarya. Yeah. And then all these words, right? So you are not fit. And he says Asvargyam. So you'll not go to Swarga. And then this is Akirtai Karam. So you'll not get fame. So where have you got all these uh, say dirtiness, or so where have you got all these say weaknesses from? Yeah. So that is what Krishna is asking Arjuna. Yeah. So here Prabhupada actually writes about Bhagavan. Yeah. So we actually covered about Bhagavan. So in this purport, if you see, right, so Prabhupada has described about Bhagavan. So we spoke, right? So in the first chapter itself, so wherein so one who possesses all six opulences. So it is again stressed here. So in detail, Prabhupada has given. And if anyone wants to read, they can read this purport, and then you'll get it. And then even say there, he mentions the about Krishna, who is the source of all incarnations, right? So he gives the references from Brahma Samhita. Yeah. So Ishvara Parama Krishna. Yeah. So that verse is being stressed out there. And then say Eta Chamsa, yeah, Krishnastu Bhagavan. Yeah. So this is the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. I think first chapter, first canto, third chapter, 28th verse. Yeah. So there, say about so Krishna is the source of all incarnation, right? So that has been mentioned. So these are all the references which have been given. Yeah. So here, so Krishna actually says that. So where have you got this Anarya Jussam, right? So Aryan is one who actually has spiritual knowledge, yeah, and then who understand the spiritual path and who understand the goal. So non-Aryan is one who doesn't understand the spiritual progress, yeah. So being a non-Aryan, right, or so being in the material platform, right? Non-Aryans are basically on the material platform. So for them, right, it will be always infamy, yeah. So and then no spiritual progress, and there will be no higher planets to achieve for them. So because they don't have a goal, right? So that's what Krishna is asking, because Arjuna is a learned person, right? So and even in the past he has won so many wars, so it doesn't befit him. So that's the reason Arjuna, Krishna asks him, from where have you got all these things? And here, right, even in the purport, if you read, right, the description about the absolute truth, right? How do we achieve absolute truth? So there are three phases. Yeah? So like Brahman and Paramatma, and the last one is Bhagwan. So how do we achieve this? So these things are also being written at a length, and so so first thing is to reach the absolute or the Bhagwan stage, right? First, we should actually, so we should have the knowledge of the Brahman effulgence. Yeah. So that is nothing but the effulgence. And then the Paramatma, and then we'll get to see Bhagwan. Okay. So these are the three stages. Okay. So, and an analogy has been given there about the sun planet. Yeah. So sun planet is compared to Bhagwan, and the Paramatma is compared to sun disk, and Brahman is compared to sun rays. So those who want to study the periphery, right? So they'll be they'll be studying about the sun rays. And then those who are a little bit advanced, right? So they'll be interested for the sun disk. Okay. And then those who are more advanced, right? So they would like to see what is happening in the sun planet or in the sun kingdom. So even that is being discussed in this purport. So it's a lengthy purport, but yes, it's worth reading. Yeah. So try to read it. It's a good read. And then in the next verse, right, in the verse 2.3, right, he says that where have you got this clavium and hridaya durvalyam? Yeah. So where you have got this this weakness of heart, yeah, and helplessness. So he's asking. So in these two verses, right, Krishna is chastising Arjuna. So from where have you got all these impurities, and then why have you become like this? So and then he knows that, yeah, so all this is due to the false magnanimity which he has towards, or so the attraction which he has towards the elders like Bhishma and Drona, right? So that's the reason he's speaking like this. So Krishna could assess it, but he's asking, and then so he's hinting. So you should fight. Yeah. So that is what is being mentioned in 2.3 also. So he says, "O son of Partha, do not yield to this degrading importance. It does not become you. Give up such pity, weakness of heart, and rise, O chastiser of enemy." So he's actually asking Arjuna, stop this lamenting, and then pick up your bows and arrows and fight. Yeah. But still Arjuna is in no mood. Yeah. So, so Arjuna still wants to clarify things. Yeah. And then in the next verse, right? So a very interesting verse wherein he says that so you're asking to fight with the superiors, so with the elder ones, so who are to be respected. Yeah? So even in our general thumb rule, right? So even in our family also, right? If there is an elderly person and by any chance, right? If he speaks any harsh word, right? So well, usually we don't counteract or say we don't go into a fight with them, right? So because they are elderly, and then say it happens sometimes if they say a word, it's okay. So we don't feel that bad, and then say we don't start quarreling with them, or so we don't do a revolt against them, right? Basically, so he says that when we are not doing the worldly, say with the words, we are not actually opposing, and then you are asking me to kill them. So that is what he's asking to Krishna, yeah. And so I think interesting point. And then he says, so they are my grandfather and guru, so who are worthy of worship, yeah? And then you're asking me to kill them. And then he asks, will you do the same with your guru and grandfather? So Arjuna is asking, yeah, to Krishna. So anyone knows who is Lord Krishna's grandfather and guru? Any digital hand?
Guru is Sandipani.
Ugrasena is the grandfather.
Yeah, correct, Mataji. Yeah. And then who is his grandfather?
Ugrasena.
Yeah, correct, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare.
So Ugrasena is his grandfather and guru is Sandipini Muni. Yeah. So Mataji said correct. So he's asking, he's cross questioning. So you have killed the enemies, but will you do the same? Okay. And so he goes on. So Arjuna says that I can't do that. It is better I live begging. Yeah. So he says that instead of killing those great souls, right? So and then seeing the blood and all those things, right? So it is better I'll live by begging. Yeah. So that is what in the next verse is. And now he is confused. So now there are a lot of things which are going on Arjuna's mind, right? So what will happen? So he's thinking whether shall I fight or not. So if I fight, though if I win, right? In the fighting, if he wins, right? So he says that there is no enjoyment. Because in the last chapter he mentioned, right? So without his relatives, there is no enjoyment if he wins also. Yeah. And if he loses, there are chances that there is a risk of losing also. Yeah. And then and he's thinking, is this a right thing to risk and then do a fight and then shed blood, yeah, on the battlefield? Or will it be better I should not fight and then live by begging? Yeah. So I think Arjuna actually is thinking in so many angles. I think so, which is very apt for us also, right? So we also think, yeah, for and lament for so many things, yeah, so which are unworthy, but we can't help, right? So we also have these things in our day-to-day dilemmas, right? So whether I should do this, whether I shouldn't, if I do, what will happen? Yeah. So then finally a situation comes in wherein Arjuna knows that he cannot handle the situation anymore. Yeah. And then so he does the right thing here. So wherein Arjuna surrenders to the Lord. Okay. And so this verse is Karpanya doshopahata svabhava pruschami tvam dharma sammuda cheta yakshreshan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham sadhimam tvam prapannam. So here he says that he surrenders to the Lord. Yeah. So he says that I've got miserly weakness. Yeah. And then he surrenders to the Lord. He says that I'm confused, and then I don't know what to do now. Yeah. So now the position changes. So until here, right, they both were friends. Yeah. And then now, even if you look Krishna's position, right? So when the war started, he was a charioteer. So he was, so initially before the war, right, both were friends. Yeah. So, and then when the war was there, so Krishna took a lesser position, right? So of a charioteer compared to the Arjuna. Yeah. And then now you see when Arjuna surrenders to him, right? And then he says that I don't see any other option, and then I'm bewildered and I need your help. Then Krishna takes the position of the Guru. So you see, so how merciful Krishna is. Yeah. So for pleasing the devotees, right? He takes so many different roles. Yeah. So in here, right? So he completely surrenders. He says that I don't know what to do. Yeah. So and then he says that so he says I am your shishya. So accept me as your shishya, and then so give me direction. What should I do? Yeah. And so because he has got this miserly weaknesses, right? So and then he says kripana, right? So he's perplexed with misery. Yeah. And so what happens is basically in the material body, right? So we are actually attached to the family, yeah? So to the family life, kids, and all those things, right? So that is the material bodily conception, right? So here the word skin disease is being used in the purport. So it is nothing but the attachment towards the family, right? So one has, because we think that so usually, right? So usually one feels that the family will save me from death. Yeah. So even if I have some disease and all, right? So they'll take me to hospital and all, and then say I'll actually be saved. So similarly, you think that say, until unless you're there, right, you can save your family and all those things. So this is the material conception of life which we think in. Yeah. So in this verse, right? So the best thing is Arjuna stops all his friendship and then with Lord Krishna and surrenders to Krishna, and then he says that show me the path. What is better? What do I do? Yeah. And then he is the first disciple of Lord Krishna. Yeah. And then so due to him, so we got this Bhagavad Gita, and then so we are able to read this. So we are always grateful to Lord Arjuna here. Yeah. And say in the subsequent verse, right? So it's been discussed that even though, right? Okay, I think we'll just look at the slides. What is there? Yeah. Arjuna continues of not fighting. Yeah. So this is 5 to 7. So we covered the 7th one. Yeah. So by nature, kripanas are nothing but miseries. Yeah. So skin disease, family, society is being spoken. Yeah. So original spiritual master is Lord Krishna. So we should surrender to a guru. So this is what happens, right? So if you look in our day-to-day life also, right? Sorry, this was the slide, right? Yeah. So in our day-to-day life also, right? So we basically have these weaknesses, and then we feel that we should not say we are confused and perplexed, right? And then we actually go into this situation. So the best thing would be that we reach out to a spiritual master, yeah, or somebody senior, right? So um, if you're confused, right, and then you don't know so where to go, right? So we should not take an incorrect step which would ruin lives or which would actually spoil things, right? So there is no problem. So if we have some issue, right, we should actually go to a guru and then reveal our problems, or so whomsoever you feel comfortable, right, an elder or a senior, and then reveal him, saying that. So it should be in such a way that so as we go to a doctor, right? So if a patient goes to a doctor and tells his medical condition, right? So similarly, so when we are actually hooked up in a situation and then we are not able to come out, speak to someone, so and then tell him all the things so that he can guide you. Yeah. And then eventually, if he's from a Guru Parampara, then that will be much more effective. Yeah. So that is being actually, that is the right way. Yeah. So we should reach out to our seniors, elders, the gurus, yeah, and then get those things clarified. And even in the next verses also, right? So it is being told that even though we may have good academics and scholarships also, right? So in 2.8, so the material perplexities or the problems are such that say one place or the other, so we cannot move ahead. So we'll be fixed, and then so we need a bona fide spiritual master. Yeah. So in this case, right? So we have say a bona fide spiritual master is one who is 100% Krishna conscious, right? So and then who knows how to solve the problems of life. So we'll have to reach to such a person. We have to surrender, and then so we get the direction. Yeah. So that is what is described, and then so in the next verse, right? Say Sanjaya actually reports saying that to Dhritarashtra that Sanjaya actually tells that Arjuna honestly expresses his mind to the Lord, to his master, and saying that I shall not fight. Yeah, but there he uses a word called parantapa, so which is nothing but he is the chastiser of enemy. Yeah, so which means that say at any time he can pick the bow and arrow, and then he has the ability to kill the opponents. Yeah, so that's the first section with this we cover. Yeah, and then so we'll see the next slides. So wherein so the Sankhya comes in. Okay, so here this is very important. So wherein there will be a lot of information being shared about the soul and the body. Yeah? So now Krishna takes the charge, yeah? And then he starts chastising Arjuna, yeah? And then he gives him jnana. Okay. So in the next verse, right, Sri Bhagavanu Vacha in verse 2.11, right, or 11, Krishna says, Ashochan anvachochastam pragyavadam sabhashase gatasun agatasum sha nanusochanti pandita. So here Krishna says to Arjuna, so you're talking like a learned man. Yeah? So you're actually talking like a learned man, but say you're actually lamenting for one, lamenting for the things which a wise man doesn't. Okay, so he's just actually he's actually calling him as a fool, saying that you're actually talking of so many learned things, but but you're lamenting for what one shouldn't. Yeah. So in this case, right, he says that a learned man, right, so he doesn't lament. So he doesn't lament because he knows what is the body, what is the soul, right, and then he doesn't lament. Okay, for any stage of the body, so whether it is living or dead, right. So a learned brahmana, he'll never lament. Okay, so who knows the actual knowledge, right, he'll never lament for a dead body or a living body. Yeah, because one who knows that what is body and what is soul, right? He'll never lament for a living or a dead. Yeah? And then, so the actual knowledge is to know the matter and soul and the supreme controller of both. So what is matter? Matter is nothing but our material body, which is perishable. Yeah. So material body is born and then it is destined to vanquish. Yeah. So one day or the other, right? So it may be today or tomorrow, right? So one day it will vanquish. But soul is eternal, so it will not. So soul will transmigrate. So if the body is dead, right? The soul actually transmigrates. The soul is never dead because nobody knows when the soul was born. Yeah? Because our body is born, right? It is destined to death. But that doesn't happen. That is not true with the soul. Yeah? So that is the actual gist of this particular verse. Yeah. So in the and soul, right? So that is the basic fundamental element of our consciousness. Yeah. So if you see, right, whenever say somebody dies, right? So what do we say? So usually if somebody dies, right? So if there is a death, we say that he has left the body, right? But majority of them don't know what has left the body. So the soul has left the body. Yeah. So and say dead matter, right? So it doesn't have any consciousness. So for example, so we can take an example of any of the celebrities, right? So when they are alive, right? So everyone tends to follow them, and then everyone wants to take uh, photos with them, yeah, and then they would like to share in Instagrams and all those stuff, right? So if that particular celebrity is dead, okay, so will somebody go and take a selfie with a dead body? No, right? Because that's dead. It's over. It has lost the consciousness because it doesn't move, right? So it doesn't have anything. So that's the reason. So that is the difference between the body and the soul. Yeah. Until unless the soul is there, right? So we have all this consciousness. Yeah. Say for example, there is a dead matter. Yeah. So there is a wood. So so does wood have any consciousness? No, right? But for the living body, right? Say the moment the consciousness is left, the the body is of no use. Yeah? So it is either buried or so it's done. One sanskara or the other has been done. Yeah. So conscious is nothing but we feel, touch, grow, and all those things will happen, right? But will the non-conscious like materials like the wood or the metal will do have those things? No. So all these things are due to our consciousness. Yeah. So that is something about the soul and the body. So he's saying, so why are you lamenting about the body? Yeah. Yeah. So those things have been actually briefed here. Yeah. So don't lament for body whether it is dead or alive. So he's saying to Arjuna, so you should not lament whether they are dead or alive. Yeah? You should do your own work, which is to fight as a Kshatriya. Yeah? So a learned man, right? See, he knows the difference between body and soul. Yeah? And body is temporary and soul is eternal. Yeah? And Lord Krishna is the controller of both matter and spirit. So this is what the learned man's track is. Okay. So one who knows, right? So this is what a learned man knows in. Yeah? He knows the difference between the body and soul. So the body is temporary. Okay. So let's see the next verse. So and then he's still actually gives his, he makes his arguments more subtler now. He says that in this verse, right, 2.12, he says, Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vyayam atah param. So here, right, he says that never was a time. So when these kingsmen or the soldiers on the battlefield, nor you or nor I, right, so were existing. So we were existing in the past, we are existing now, and then we'll be existing in the future also. Yeah. So he says that don't lament for it. Okay. So because these are all souls, right? So the only difference between us and Lord Krishna is that we are jivas and then Lord is Ishvara. He is the controller, right? So he remembers birth after birth what happens. Yeah, but we forget. So the jiva, once he leaves the body, right, he forgets everything. Yeah. So these we will discuss in the upcoming chapters. Yeah. So what should be the mood? Yeah, and at the time of death and all those things, right? We'll get all those details to know. Yeah. And then so why the Lord makes us to forget our past life and all those things, right? So we'll get to know in the subsequent chapters. This will be clarified. But he says that there is no death to the soul. Yeah. So once it is being killed, right, it takes another body. So that's what he says. And then he says that all of them were existing. They are existing now. They'll be there in the future also. Yeah. So, and then this is one of the important shlokas. Yeah. So now Arjuna may counter, right, saying that you are saying that we should not be attached with the soul, but I am attached to the body. So to the body which I have been seeing, I've been seeing of my gurus and relatives, right? So for that, so this is the answer. So wherein he says, Lord Krishna says, Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatran muhyate. So here, right? So this is the knowledge of soul. Yeah? So in this case, if you see, right, say kaumaram yavanam jara, right? So the soul, the body, right? The body changes from childhood to youth, yeah, and then it goes to an elderly stage, and then old age, death. Again, it transmigrates, right? So as the embodied soul, right, continuously passes in the body from boyhood to youth, and youth to old age, the soul also. So as the transformation happens from a boy to a childhood to a youth to a man and to old man and so still older and death, right? So he says that as we grow, the soul also transmigrates. So if we leave the body here, right? Say this soul again transmigrates to another body. Yeah. So we'll spend some 5 minutes on this because this is a little bit important. So in this case, right? So if we look, right? So I'll give you an example. Say when we were small kids, right? So we were actually driving a tricycle, right? So, a cycle with 3 wheels. Yeah. And then slowly when we went to school, then we got a bicycle to ride. Yeah. And then probably college, those who were fortunate, they got bikes. Yeah. So, but these days it is casual, right? Everyone gets a bike. But yes, and while doing jobs, usually more or less everyone has a car. So this is how did the body change or did the person change? So if it is X, right? So X was driving the tricycle, X was driving the bicycle, X was driving the bike, X is driving the car. So the X remains the same, but only thing is changing the vehicles. Similarly, the soul is same. It is transmigrating from one body to the other. Yeah. So, and then this transmigration basically happens on the desire and the karma of our past life. Okay. So karma is nothing but, so whatever good or bad things we have done, right? The reactions of them. So basically you can think of Newton's third law, right? So for every action, there is equal and opposite reaction, right? So whatever we have done, right? So it could be instant. So instants are the ones like, say you actually abuse someone and someone gives you a tight slap. So that is instant karma. That is very good. Huh? So if that happens, else there are few which will take time to fructify. Yeah, so that may happen in this or in the next birth. Yeah. So depending on those things, right? And the desire, so at the time of leaving our body, right? So there are verses in the upcoming chapters where Antakale Chamam and so all those things are there. So we get the next life. Yeah. And say, so one thing important here is, say we get a life, right? So whatever it is. So we should not indulge into the sinful life, yeah, especially the human form of life, right? So getting an human form of life is very difficult. So because this is the only life wherein you can actually distinguish between the good and bad things, and so what is the actual spiritual knowledge, and what is the actual knowledge, right? And then what is soul? All these things only you'll know in the human form of life, and then and to perform the bhakti or anything, right? So human form is the best, and we have to use this to go back to the Godhead. So we should go back from where we have come, right? So we are not meant to be there in this material world. So this material world is a prison. Lord Krishna himself has told him. Yeah, it's Dukhalayam. But yeah, so that is hard reality which people will not agree, because everyone is trying to actually enjoy the material life, right? If there is heat, we turn on AC and then we feel that, okay, so we are changing the world. Yeah, nothing is going to change. So we are actually making our, uh, we are getting the temporary happiness of our senses. That's it. So the basic thing is we should never indulge in sinful life. Like we know, right, all our four principles. So if we do the reverse of it, right, gambling or meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, all these things we should avoid. Yeah, because if we do these things, right, so we'll be again in the cycle of birth, old age, disease, and death, right? So we'll continue in that cycle. Yeah, but so our motto is to come out of that. Yeah, say how many births, how many years, how many lifetimes will we be doing the same thing? Yeah. So the current life, right, which we have, right, is one of the chapters of the book. So the book has many chapters, right? So this is basically one of the chapter. Yeah. This ends and a new chapter begins. So, and then we should actually think, how can we actually spiritually connect to the Lord and then go back to the spiritual world where there is no birth, no old age, no disease, no death. Yeah. How wonderful. So everyone aspires it. Yeah. And the simple process would be that we need to follow the ABCD principle. So anyone knows ABCD principle? No? Okay, no problem. I'll tell you. So
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. So ABCD, like association of A stands for association with devotees.
Yeah,
Uh, B stands C stands for chanting. D stands for having a clean diet,
yeah,
and
Okay.
B.
Bu
Hare
is for
Krishna.
books. Books, Prabhu.
Books. Yes.
Yeah. So
Books.
books is nothing but
Correct.
shastras. Yeah. So A is for association. So association with the devotees. Yeah. So who can actually show us the path of spiritual path? Yeah. And then B is for books. So read shastras wherein you learn things, right? So read Prabhupada books. And then C is for chanting. So to cleanse our mind, right? So we have so many anarthas. It's very difficult to chant without offenses. Yeah. Even though we chant, right? So we'll not be able to hear all the 16 words. Yeah. To hear every 16 word in every bead, right? It's very difficult because the mind moves here and there, right? So it is very fragile. So we'll have to chant the holy name. Yeah. So then we'll slowly purify. Yeah. And then as Prabhu said, it's diet. Yeah. So it's spiritual diet. It's not the diet plan given by some of the vendors. Yeah. So wherein we pay and then for one thing or the other, right? So we ask for the diet plan. So this is not the diet plan. This is sanctified food. So which we offer to Krishna and then we take it. Yeah. So if you follow these things, right, we'll slowly, gradually cleanse everything and then make our path. We'll progress towards the spiritual journey. Okay. And we'll look at the next slide. Yeah. So herein, right, he says next, right. So if still he's not convinced, right, showing that I'm still say attached to the material conception of the body, right? Then in 2.14, the Lord says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkhada, agama payano anityas, tamsi tikshashra bharatam. So like we have sukha and dukkha, right? Say these things, and say we have hot and cold weathers also, right? So all these things come and disappear in due course, and then we'll have to tolerate them. Yeah. So we should not get disturbed. Okay. So in this case, a beautiful analogy has been given of the Matajis, right? So Mataji is in the hot summer, right? When the temperature is around 40-45 degrees, right? They still go to the kitchen and then cook for the family, right? So because that's their duty, right? And so even for the another example is of the devotees, right? So who actually in the month of Magha, so which is usually during November time, yeah, where it's very cold, like below 10 degrees or so, right? And then even in that temperature, right, people take a bath early in the morning. Yeah. So few of them take cold water also, right? So due to the change in the temperature or the change in the climate, right? So we cannot let go our duties, right? So we'll have to perform our duties and then tolerate it. So here Krishna says there is no choice. So you'll have to tolerate, and then your duty is to fight. So whether you like it or not like it, so whether you're feeling that you're killing your relatives, so there is no choice. So you'll have to go ahead and then perform the duty of a Kshatriya. Yeah. And then you'll have to tolerate. So whatever little pain you have for the body attachment, right? And then you should be happy on the other hand that say they have got a newer body. Okay. So that is being told. And in the next verse, right? So the one, so who is best among the men, right? Who is equipoised to both um, heat and cold or sukha dukkha, right? So he actually is enlightened and then he is eligible to go to the Goloka. Yeah. So so the example is here given of a sannyasi, right? So taking sannyas is very painstaking, yeah? Because you'll have to leave your family bondings and everything, right? And then say one who is serious, right? So in spite of these difficulties, right? Say if he is progressing, right? Say he can actually tolerate these painstaking situations due to these family relations, and then if he moves on, right? So then he is bound to go to the, if he continues his devotional journey, right? He's bound to go to Golaka. Yeah. Okay. Uh, okay. What is the next verse? Yeah. This is the seers of truth. Okay. There is nothing much here. So spiritual world and material world, they have given an example. Yeah, the material body. Yeah, and then this is the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entities is sure to come to an end. So this is nothing but an example, right? So wherein say birth to death, right? So these things have been showcased here in this verse, right? So we get to know all these things. We'll cover until 20 shlokas and then we'll wind up the session for today, Prabhuji. So just wait, Mataji's wait for 5 minutes, yeah. And so this is again, he discusses about the soul. So soul is not the one so which actually kills others, yeah. And in the subsequent verse also, you'll know that no one can kill the soul also, right? So the soul is indestructible, yeah. So here, right? Okay, so I think that will come later on, but so we'll actually look at the verse 20 and then we'll wind up this session. So here, right? So in this shloka, right? It is spoken about the soul, yeah. Basically now Lord Krishna spoke about the body and soul, right? And henceforth he'll be talking about the properties, yeah. And then what is the size of the soul, and then how it cannot be cut, and all those things, right? He'll be giving all those details. But in this example, right? So he says that there is no birth or death of the soul, yeah. So nobody knows when it has come, and then it is said it is there from the past, so nobody knows it. And if you look at the body, right, the body actually goes into the 6 kinds of transformation, yeah. Say like the body takes birth, yeah, and then it grows, it remains for some times, produces some byproducts, it dwindles and dies. But this doesn't happen to the soul, yeah. And here the size of the soul is also described in this verse. So this verse, with this verse we'll stop for today's class. And with one question, so anyone knows what is the size of the soul? Okay, Mataji, you'll have to change your name, yeah? uh, Zoom user, I have given you the privilege, so you can speak, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, I was disconnected. So I
Okay, no
reconnected
problem.
again.
No problem, Mataji.
It says it is 1,000 times of the tip of our hair.
Okay. Anyone else has any other answer?
Where you minute?
Very
Prabhuji, my
minute.
son wants to answer this question. Can he?
You can, Mataji, on his behalf. Okay, good.
Individual.
It is 1.10,000 times the size of the tip of the hair.
Yeah. So that's correct, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hari Bol. So that's the size of the soul, yeah. So it is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. So which we cannot measure it. Okay. So very small. Aishwarya Mataji has shared the attendance link. So those who have not marked their attendance can mark it, yeah, before leaving. So we'll end this class today because it's a big chapter. Possibly we may end up with 3 sessions, but we'll see how much we can cover tomorrow and then probably next Saturday.
Prabhuji,
Any questions we can take up? Yeah, go ahead.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Good.
While marking attendance list, there was a question. What is the name of teacher? I don't know.
Ramesh, you can put my name as Ramesh.
Oh, thank you, Prabhuji.
Ramesh P. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions we have? Rajni Mataji, go ahead.
Prabhuji,
Pritha Mataji, go ahead, Mataji.
actually, Prabhuji, I have marked the attendance sheet.
Okay.
But what happened? The first marks, first form, I have selected one answer, very wrong option. I have selected. After that, I have filled up the form twice with the selecting the right option. Is there be any problem, Prabhuji?
Yeah, I think it will be twice. Maybe Aishwarya Mataji, you'll have to actually see through and then discard one of them. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. I'll discard one of them and I'll do the second one. I'll choose the
Okay,
second one.
okay. Thank you.
No worries. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I have a
Mataji.
question.
Mataji,
I have
go
a
ahead.
question. Like Arjuna asked you questions and he was bewildered by family traditions will be lost, people will die in war.
Yes, Mataji.
So he asked one question like there will be no male members and only women will be there. Then who will teach the next generation? So even I am feeling the same thing. Like it is right that Lord Krishna told Arjuna to fight because it is his duty. But then who will be responsible, or in whose account, karmic account, the responsibility of those people who have been killed? Uh, I mean, can you put some light on that?
There'll be no karmic account because this is all adharmic people are assembled, Mataji. On the other hand, right? So, and then, and you know, right? So why Krishna descends on the planet? So he descends to actually kill the adharmic people. So he assembled all these people on the battlefield because they have to be vanquished. Else, see what will happen if at all we don't kill them, right? So Duryodhana, being a king, right? Say he actually tried to insult Draupadi, right? So if we allow these guys to flourish, right, what will happen? So yatha raja tatha praja, right? So even so the prajas also will be doing those things. So if for killing these adharmic people, right, there is no sin, Mataji.
But Prabhuji, what about the other family members of the ones who are killed, who are not?
See what will happen, right? In this battle, right? So once this battle is won, right? So Yudhishthir Maharaj will become the king, right? And then he'll, once he's on the throne, right? It will be Ramaraja. Okay. So in there, right? So every Mataji or say whoever are widows or right, he'll take care of them as his own mothers. Yeah. So he'll not let go these things to propel. Yeah. So he'll take care of every citizen. Yeah. Even if you read in Bhagavatam, right? Say post this war, right? The way Yudhishthir Maharaj ruled the kingdom, right? It was like Ram Raja, and then everything, even nature was supporting him. Yeah. So there is no problem. So for the abundant families, right? So we have a king like Yudhishthira who will take care of them. Yeah? So that's the thing, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna,
much.
Mataji. I see more hands. Sukant Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Dandavat.
Prabhuji, just I was thinking about one thing from this. I was just trying to connect here.
Yeah.
In the end of the Bhagavad in Gita, Krishna says, "Sarva dharman paritejo mam ekam sharanam braja."
Yes.
So here, there he's saying that you leave, abandon all other religious activity and surrender to me.
Yeah.
Here in this chapter, he is asking him to Arjuna to fight. So in that context, how do we general people understand what is our duty? Means I have to surrender to Krishna, that is fine, but
Yeah.
I have to do my duties as well. So how do I understand what is dharma, what is adharma, what is my duty, what is not my duty in this light?
So Prabhu, so whatever we are doing, right? So whatever responsibilities we have in our day in and day out, right? We should follow that. Yeah. So if we have a family to take care, so then that's our responsibility to take care. But while taking care, right? So we should actually put Krishna as a center. Yeah. So we should think that so we have got a family, right? So wherein I'm a custodian of few family members who Krishna has given me. And then that is my responsibility that I foresee them that so whatever best things I can give them, right? So in terms of the spiritual knowledge and all those things, right? I make Krishna as centric and then I take care of them. Similarly, whatever work we do in, right? We do it. Because we'll have to work for our livelihood. Yeah. But and then whatever we earn, right? We can give some portion to Krishna. Yeah. So always we'll have to think of the God. Yeah. So nobody is asking us to stop anything. So let us continue what we're doing, but let's add Krishna. So in there, right, Krishna will slowly reveal us the path, what to take up, yeah, what is right, what is wrong, yeah, starting from the four regulative principles, and then say doing morning sadhana and all these things, right? You yourself will feel the difference. Yes, Prabhu. So because we are not that say devotees like Arjuna also, right? Where we can directly talk to Krishna. Yes, Krishna will speak to us in the form of maybe in the form of Prabhupada's book, lectures, videos, gurus, somewhere or the other, right? You'll get all this whenever you have perplexities, right? But the only thing is we have to surrender as Arjuna surrendered. Yeah. So that if we can do right, Krishna will take care of it. But we always have a doubt. How can I do this? What will happen to my family? All those things, right? So we think for every small thing, right? We think of lot many things. Can we do it? If we leave everything to Krishna, right? Krishna will take care of us. So if we go into that stage, right, Prabhu, so everything will get revealed. Yes, it's very hard, but we'll have to do the journey. We'll have to slowly start, and then you'll realize those things. But it takes time, Prabhu. This
Thank you,
helps,
Prabhu.
Prabhu?
Yeah. Makes perfect sense. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Pankaj Prabhu, you have something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.
Prabhuji, Krishna, like Arjuna is very confused. Like he has lot of compassion for his family members, even after they are standing against him. So and then Krishna like guides him. Like again, he talks about the soul, that they are the identity of person is not the body but his soul. So like in real life also, like we have like many of like we have relations, family relations and all, where people
Yeah.
are like very much bad or like very bad in behavior and negative character. So so can we apply the same teachings of this chapter in real life, like standing against them, or trying to, because again they are also family members. So sometimes it's not that easy to stand against them or whatever they do. So in that sense, how can we deal with taking Gita and Bhagavad Gita as a guide for us?
So one thing, Pankaj Prabhu, here, if you look, right, the opponents for which Arjuna was lamenting, right? So they were not fit to be lamented for, yeah. So we know. So like the seniors, like Drona and Bhishma, right? So when Draupadi was insulted, they didn't utter a word, yeah. And so there are others things also when they were set to fire, yeah. And then when there was an exile and all those things, right? When Pandavas were tortured multiple times, so nobody actually came forward, yeah. So this situation is very different. Arjuna's situation is very different. I don't think in our real life we have such people who actually can think of or do such harmful things to us, yeah. So but yes, as you said, right, if there are any things which are not going well, right, so we'll have to deal depending upon the situation, Prabhu. So you cannot go and actually take a sword and then saying that let us fight and then do that, all those things, right? That will not work out. So we'll have to actually think of what is amicable, yeah, because we know, right? So the other side is also the souls, right? So and so for one karma or the other, right? So he's behaving like this, okay. So, and then that is based on our karma also, Prabhu. Say like in the past, we might have done something somewhere. Okay. So, wherein we are getting those sinful reactions. Okay. So, one thing would be that we should stay calm and then see through. Okay. So, the situation. So, whether we'll have to actually introspect. So, why are we getting these things? Yeah. So, then only and most of the times, right, we should actually talk to them and settle things down peacefully, yeah. And so you don't get bewildered by what they say, right? So you know, right, so your ultimate goal is to reach Bhagavad Dham, and then so you don't get into this material fights and all those things, right? So just look at introspect. Mostly it will be our past karmas and few things we may not know. You may feel that this life I have been so pious, and then why am I being targeted and all, right? But yeah, this is all karma, Prabhu. So we'll have to handle. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rajni Mataji, you have anything, or else we'll wind up. Last question.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
I have a question like the same question I had asked even in my previous class. I'm trying a lot to concentrate on the japa and all that when I'm doing it, mala and all that. But my mind is not getting fixed. So I was just thinking, like, is it okay that I just simply continue? Like, they say in English, fake it until you make it. So is it just I just continue doing the japa? It's
Yes,
not
yes,
faking it,
Mataji.
but yeah, it's not faking it, but just consciously telling rather than subconsciously doing it. So
Yeah.
is
So
it okay if I
Mataji,
do that?
yeah, what time do you do your rounds, Mataji?
Once in the morning as soon as I get up, like even before stepping down from the bed, I do once. And later on, maybe once after I do the lighting of the lamps and all that. And in the evening, I do 1 or 2 rounds. So it'll be like varying how many rounds I do.
So Mataji, try something in the morning. Yeah? Say once you wake up, right? Say do your morning formalities, and then say one day, right? Say if you are getting it up 6, right? So maybe sleep early and half an hour, and then get up early, yeah, and half an hour. Try to wake up at 5:30, Mataji. Yeah, if you are you're getting waking up at 6, right? Say and then say take bath and everything, right? And then sit in front, say whatever worship you would do, right? So lighting lamp or anything, so
Mhm.
do it, and then sit in front of your altar or the photo of Lord or whatsoever it is, right? So sit
Mhm.
in front of it and then try to chant Mataji, and then see
Yeah.
if that actually helps in. Usually, chanting in the morning has very good effect, Mataji. So usually, what happens is in the Mangal Harti time, right? Say
Mhm.
4:30.
Mhm.
So usually after Mangal Harti, right? So we sit and then we do the japa. So in that time, right? So because that is Brahma Muhurta, right? The time has
Mhm.
got the Brahma Muhurta time, right? So if you chant, right? So basically in the next chapters you'll know, okay. So even why we should chant in Brahma Muhurta. So if you chant, right?
Mhm.
So the effect is different because the mood in which we are there, right? It's
Mhm.
Sattva Guna. So usually in the morning um, time, it's very peaceful and it's in Sattva Guna. So you can chant very nicely and the concentration would be also good. But
Okay.
having said that, right, you try this. If it works, it's well and good. Even if you feel that, yeah, it's very hard, Mataji, because the mind moves on, and then it depends upon what we feed on the previous day, also, right? Say,
And moreover,
and
Tabji, what happens is that I get very anxious because I have to pack my kids' lunch within like
yeah, yeah,
7:50 and
that's
within
what I say,
6:50
right,
and all that.
Mataji?
So
So
when I
take,
sit down and if I start
yeah.
continuing, I get very anxious and I get diverted.
And
So
the other thing is, we feel that, say, if I'm not at home, say everything will collapse. Yeah, the whole world will collapse. We feel, but nothing will happen. So, um, see, at times what happens is if the kids are sleeping, right? At times they yawn or they cry for a minute and then they sleep. But we feel that okay, if I don't attend at that time, so some disaster will happen. So nothing will happen. So this is just one of the example I'm saying. At times we'll have to remove all those things, Mataji. Slowly we'll develop those things, but don't leave the chanting, Mataji.
okay.
So though it is mechanical, right? So
Yeah, that was my
you'll
question.
get the
It's very
taste slowly.
mechanical. It is not attached to like, I don't get
Yeah,
it. For the first or the second round, it'd be beautiful. But
yeah.
later on, I don't know.
So
There's
that's what
some sort of disconnection.
yeah. So in the morning, right, Mataji, try whatsoever rounds you want to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so sit in a calm way and then try to chant and then try to listen every word. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only thing which the mind should do is it should only hear the words. Okay.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it should hear every word you should hear. So
Mm-hmm.
then automatically those things will be kicked off. Because
Okay.
all these days we have been seeing all these things, no, Mataji, and even it depends upon the day before. So what kind of engagements we were in, right? So if until night, say we were into some issues and all those things, right? Say we slept
Mm-hmm.
at 12, there was a quarrel with your neighbor or someone, and then you slept at 1 or 2 or 12, right? Obviously, at 6 o'clock, you'll get those things only in your mind. But yeah, so try to refrain all those things. When you sit, just focus on the beads and then the mantra. Try to hear every word. That's it, Mataji. Yeah.
Okay, Prabhuji, I'll try this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the
Hare
guidance.
Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so that's it for the class. Or Pankaj Prabhu, you have
Yes,
raised?
Prabhu, just last question. Uh, thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Prabhuji, since Krishna says like the soul is like immortal, it has been existing and will exist again also.
Is
Can I
eternal.
conclude? Yeah, its soul is eternal. Yes, Prabhuji. So can I conclude that this like our soul was also present in Satyuga and then it transferred to Treta, from then the Dwapar and then came here to Kali Yuga. So does it be like we have been traveling right since Satyuga and reached till this Kali Yuga?
Say the body transmigrates into 84 lakh species per one. Okay. So from the lower animals, right, to the human form and the upper planetary forms, right? So there are 84 lakh species. Okay. And I think so we have gone through all those species, the lower species, and then now we have got a human form. So there is no guarantee that say 100 years ago, 200 years ago, so you had an body of human form. Yeah. Only the fortunate ones get this human form after going through evolving through all those species, right? So it depends upon what we do in this human form of life. Yeah. So we could have been there, but we could have been as a worm, or so we could have been as a bird. Nobody knows.
Sure, Prabhuji. So, like, if we could have been like any ant also in
Yeah,
Satyuga,
anything can be possible.
anything.
So we can be a mosquito also. So
Sure. And so the possibility is also that like we could have been the humans also, but as we didn't fulfill the
yeah,
like we didn't use our human life correctly, then we would have transferred to other species. And again today, like we are
yeah,
humans. Yeah.
yeah. You did some good karma in your last life, so you got this human life in this life, Prabhu. So that's the thing.
Got
Okay.
it. Thank you,
Sh-
Prabhuji.
okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all. Thank you all for staying until 6:30. We'll end up the class. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.